all three of those agents will be valuable to an individual sales rep. So it's the orchestration of multiple different agents that I think we're going to see more of. And I think human to agent collaboration, like we're already seeing a lot of that.
Podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K. Tune in now, don't delay.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. It is I, Coach K. I'm really excited, pleased, and happy to have my man Mustafa Saeed with me, who is the CEO, co-founder of Luella AI. How are you, my friend?
Great. Thanks for having me on the pod.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you. I love the piano-like-esque background. If you're listening on audio, you can't see his cool piano thing in the background. It's just fun. Well, I'm excited to have you. So we met up a few weeks ago, and we finally get to get on the pod. As you well know, I love to dive into the tech and what you're seeing with customers. But before all that, I want to know you as a human. So give me the non-resume version of who the heck you are, what your journey's been, and why in your world are you deciding to go this crazy AI journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been building stuff. When I was 16, I started a YouTube channel that paid for my university tuition. My first job out of school was at a marketing agency that
Nice.
failed. Coach, do you know Apple's iOS 14.5 update and what happened there?
No.
So iOS 14 made personalized advertising less effective and a lot more expensive. And we
Mhm.
saw our revenue slice in half. We lost a few of our clients to bankruptcy. We had to execute on a year-long pivot, transforming that failed agency into a successful SaaS. So that was an extraordinary experience, fresh out of school, not only seeing that transition, but also being a part of that new founding team. I then joined Clearco on their go-to-market team. Clearco was the world's largest investor in e-commerce businesses. That was the best job ever because I got to spend all of my time with founders and I had a ton of flexibility in that role. I was like a Swiss Army knife sales guy where like it doesn't matter where the deal comes from, just close it. Whether it's net new, churned
Right.
opportunities that we're bringing back to life or companies with their existing book of business that we're looking to top up. So a
Yeah.
lot of great learnings from that experience. I've always been a growth consultant, specifically for digital native brands, helping them from a sales process optimization standpoint, running ads or establishing affiliate and partnership opportunities. And I've done the same for a lot of startup accelerators and incubators. And now, like you mentioned, we're building Luella. My founding team and I have come together to solve a lot of the previous challenges that we have seen in our agency and consulting days.
Love it. I love it. Love it. Luella, let's dig in a little bit. You obviously have a lot of things you could have done or decided to focus on. So
Hmm.
first I got to know why the name, why Luella, and then why this particular part of AI. So describe me the journey of the name and then tell me about the tech.
So the name isn't the sexiest story in the world. I asked ChatGPT to give me 100 unique names, and it was a very moment in my entrepreneurial journey. I was literally copying and pasting names into GoDaddy just to try and find one with an available .ai domain that didn't cost thousands of
Wow.
dollars, that was somewhat easy to pronounce, that I can get my founding team on board with, and that wasn't overly crowded in terms of the search rankings. Easier said than done, but we really started focusing a lot of the recent challenges around email deliverability. There's a lot of new AI sales tools that I'm sure you've seen that make it easier to
Oh yeah.
spam AI generated emails without consequences. And it's reached a point where even Google and Microsoft are now making near weekly changes to their spam algorithms to combat abuse of AI and automation. And even the biggest enterprises in the world, not just startups, all of a sudden are seeing more of their emails land in spam. And I actually had a conversation with the senior VP of revenue operations at Oracle that really validated this problem space for us. He mentioned
Hmm.
that over the last 6 to 12 months, not only are they seeing diminishing returns from cold email outreach, but all of a sudden, one of the biggest enterprises in the world is seeing email deliverability challenges as well. And that's why the
Yeah.
first product, the first agent that we went to market with is our deliverability agent. Luella will protect your sender reputation, keep bad actors out, and improve your
Yeah.
deliverability over time. Luella will run ongoing placement tests just to surface visibility that your team is missing to where your emails are actually ending up. Luella will surface alerts to any malicious activity that's happening across your sales team and any actions that are needed to be taken to improve your deliverability and protect your sender reputation. We have
Hmm.
actually built a lot of the same safeguards that Google and Microsoft have for themselves. We vet every single user that uses our infrastructure, and we also create dedicated servers with a completely separate IP address just so we're avoiding exposure to spammers and
Yeah.
grifters. So that's that first product that we've been making a lot of noise around. We've been launching new stuff almost weekly at this point, and a lot of really cool things that are coming on the data orchestration side. That will soon become our prospecting agent. And Have you ever run Facebook ads
Oh yeah.
before?
Hmm.
Yeah, so Luella will soon be able to run cold outreach campaigns very similarly to how Facebook does their ad targeting. Luella will be able
Cool.
to analyze several thousands of data sources that give us an understanding to who are the people that actually have a problem that your company can uniquely solve for, whether they're complaining about your competitors on social media or G2 or Trustpilot reviews.
Very good.
Perhaps they went to a conference, released a job posting, announced a round of funding, or maybe, Coach, how many people come on a podcast like this and all they do is vent for 30 minutes, just talking all the shit that's happening in their life, solutions that they're experimented with? You can
Right.
probably sell me $10,000 worth of software just for all the shit that I've talked about so far in this podcast and all the others that I've spoken
Yeah.
on. And we're also using reinforcement learning algorithms just to do a better job of dynamically identifying high intent prospects that
Hmm.
are likely to resonate with your messaging, that are likely to see value from your offer. Just so instead of spamming some database, we can send much fewer emails, but to people that actually should receive an email from you.
So do you feel like I know email is obviously one mode of communication, but it sounds like you're going to go into more of agents for communications, whether it's ads or emails, or whatever. Is that kind of like the future of Luella that you're seeing is like whatever way you communicate, we want to be there, or you want to keep narrow to more of ads and emails and that kind of stuff? What's your focus?
There are a lot of companies that do everything and do everything badly. There's a company like that exists in this industry. It's called HubSpot. And we don't want to be that company, right? We
Mm,
want to be the best at one very specific thing, and that's cold email outreach. There will be opportunities down the line to expand into other outreach channels like LinkedIn,
yeah.
but we really want to be the best because there's a lot of depth, especially as a software company,
Yeah.
that you'll just never have the engineering resources to achieve. And
Oh yeah.
really, we really want to make sure we have those capabilities for our customers.
I love it. I know you were talking before the call around, obviously won't mention any names, but I love to dig into real time case studies or examples, that kind of stuff. So give me a lay of the land of a customer with obviously not naming names. What
Mm.
was the before situation and what happened after? What kind of results they seeing?
So we officially closed our first enterprise client just last week,
Nice.
and we onboarded 20 of their sales representatives first week of December. And in less than 8 weeks, we saw an 83% reduction in their spam rates and a 41% improvement in the response rates just by
Nice.
leveraging our deliverability agent. So
Yeah.
that's over $40 million in pipeline value every single year that they otherwise would have lost to spam that we're now able to recover. And they were so happy with that initial experience that now they've onboarded all 50 of their North American sales reps, and we got approval to onboard all 120. And we have onboarded another 2 dozen of those kind of larger enterprises for our deliverability
Nice.
agent specifically.
How do you get around? Because I don't know about you, but with AI in general and agents and now things getting executed, that kind of stuff, there's this trust factor.
Yeah.
So when you talk to leaders and they're saying, how can I trust that number one, it's not going to burn my IP stuff, but also just communicate in a way that's going to drive pipeline. What's your thinking and how do you help people shift their minds around that?
Necessary guardrails. We actually require an admin on the account to approve any AI generated content that Luella creates for you. And that
Yeah.
content also goes through a process of experimentation. So more people will only see that AI generated content if it outperforms your current best performing sequence. So that's the guardrail that we've added on our side by keeping humans in the loop because like human to agent collaboration is something that should be encouraged. I feel some, especially AI SDRs, have just automated way too much too quickly. There is a downside to AI and automation, right? Hence, everyone's inbox being flooded. So that's
Right.
why we want to use AI and automation in places where we know it will drive incremental revenue. And we've seen more value keeping humans in the loop because there will be critical context the sales rep will have to the relationship that AI
Yeah.
model doesn't. An AI model can perhaps scrape several thousands of different data sources and will have a unique insight that the sales rep doesn't. But the sales rep perhaps went to a conference, met that prospect in person, and will be able to share additional details as part of that communication that would add even more value. There are certain advantages that you get from these AI models. There are certain advantages by keeping humans in the loop, and that is a larger efficiency that we've gained just to make sure you're not flooding your TAM with AI generated bullshit.
Yeah, I get that. I love the thought, like this whole agent thing in general has been intriguing to say, like, where does the AI end and the human begin, or vice versa? Like, where does the human end and then the AI
Mm.
begin? Make sure you have that balance. Do you see Oh, the right to pose this question, but you see a world where I'm going to give you a
Mm.
scenario and you tell me what you think. So it's more of saying, okay, instead of having one human over marketing, one human over rev ops, whatever, or like you have a salesperson who has one agent for this, one agent for that. You see a world where in the future where we have agents that are literally executing and really enabling the human to have more of a relationship because everything else is done. The notes is done and the email is done and the research is done. Like everything else is done. But
Mm.
this is the thing that AI can't do is the connection piece. Do you see that is the world we're going to, or do you feel like it's going to become more of where AI is going to be the barrier in between? What do you think?
I think individual sales reps will achieve their desired objectives. Again, the deliverability agent is just the first agent that we've launched with to
Yeah.
protect your sender reputation and improve your deliverability. The prospecting agent is coming next. So avoiding low quality leads and identifying high value prospects to target that your sales team isn't already reaching out to. And the third pillar is that relationship building agent, just to eliminate robotic follow ups and nurture authentic relationships over time. So all three of those agents will be valuable to an individual sales rep. So it's the orchestration of multiple different agents that I think we're going to see more of. And I think human to agent collaboration, like we're already seeing a lot of that. But I think the next shift is agent to agent collaboration, where
Mm,
Luella can integrate with another AI agent because Luella is doing a very good job on the deliverability side. Another
right.
AI agent like Reggie, perhaps that may not be where their engineering resources are being hyper focused on. So Luella can integrate with that kind of an agent and handle the deliverability side of things, keeping those bad actors out, improve your sender reputation. I think that's the next big shift in how we can collaborate with these agents.
Do you feel like, and this is one thing that's super intriguing because, like in the past, you had to have like APIs and integrations and all sort of stuff, but now you have things like Operator and all these different technologies that are browser-based type agents. So it means that the integration piece is not as heavy on the backend APIs, which means that agents can then talk to each other much easier. Like, I don't, have you seen that video of those two agents? Like one's on the phone, one's the computer, and they do that coding conversation. That was
Mm.
crazy. So, do you feel like that's the world where the APIs is no longer as necessary? It's literally just agents talking on some level, and it's not needed as much. Like, where do you see that going?
For the time being, APIs have still been crucial to get the data access
Yeah.
that we need. It's
Right.
been like a massive fight for developer-friendly APIs and data interoperability. So, like for the time being, APIs have still been extremely valuable to us. We've
Right.
established a partnership with Ampersand that has given us most of the data integration that we need right out of the gate. And obviously, we are still building out direct integrations with more strategic partners like LinkedIn. We are doing a ton of web scraping, and tools like Operator have created a larger efficiency there. Like, I don't think people realize how many Y Combinator startups Operator replaced just from that one launch. Like, how many Y Combinator startups that were just focused on web-based
Right.
agents, web scraping agents. So that has been a larger efficiency on our side, but also a lot of middleware like
Yeah.
Zapier and Make that allows us to establish a connection with certain sources that we may not have a direct integration with. So for a combination of multiple different sources to get the breadth of data integration that we need, there's a reason for why most intent platforms will only have, say, 10 intent signals or a couple of dozen instead of the several thousands that exist on this internet, is because previously it was a data infrastructure problem, but now it has gotten a lot easier to get that data access. But for the time being, I still think it's going to be a combination of multiple different sources to fill in the necessary gaps.
Yeah, this is what gets so intriguing to me. And as a developer, what I'm curious for you, I don't know if you saw that teaser from OpenAI about how they're releasing in Japan the sales agent doing some AI SDR
Mm.
type of stuff, which is a play I didn't think they're going to do. It doesn't surprise me, but it's interesting that they're doing that direction. So, as a developer of tech and technology, that kind of stuff, when you see that kind of thing happen, do you get worried? What do you think about to make sure that your unique tech, even though you may be powered by OpenAI, how to keep your unique angle on it?
As of right now, there aren't many AI agents, unfortunately, that are driving incremental revenue. They do a good job of driving workflow efficiencies. They make it easier to send a lot of emails that are AI generated. But when it comes to incremental revenue, that's a larger gap that we are seeing. So the more people building in this space, I think the better. The sooner we
Yeah.
will get to that point where, hey, like these agents are working for all of us, and we can move away from the stale databases and static sequences that millions of sales reps all over the world are currently leveraging. And
Mhm.
LLMs we don't believe like that's really the way to go. LLMs are literally like really just copywriting machines, right? And like the
Yeah.
biggest problem in sales is not copywriting, but optimization, right? It's matching the right prospect with the messaging that is actually going to provide value and resonate with that prospect, because there's an infinite number of
Yeah.
combinations. There's an infinite number of combinations to the prompts that we can input as well. And it's the infrastructure that we build around the AI models that creates that long-term moat. Not only the data integration, which
Right.
is something that we've had to hire data infrastructure heavy engineers from AWS to build that for us, but also the reinforcement learning models that I mentioned earlier. So reinforcement learning really helps us to determine optimal outreach strategies by analyzing all the past data that we have, running smaller experiments, learning from those experiments to determine what is the next variation that is likely to outperform everything that you have tested in the past. What is the next contact that we should reach out to? What is the next sequence variation that is likely to resonate more strongly? And we use these reinforcement learning algorithms throughout our entire platform, not only on the sending side, but on the email warm-up. How many email warm-ups should we send and what type every single day? How often should we be rotating IPs for the dedicated servers that we're creating? So there's a lot of that infrastructure that OpenAI, they're just never going to have the time to build out. But hey, we encourage more innovation in the space. It's still very much exciting to see.
Yeah. I think it's always intriguing to see that because just from a prompting perspective, we're not talking like all the integrations and the things you have going on. Just from a prompt, how good the quality of prompts are running on the AI makes a
Yeah.
way big difference on the output. Just the prompts, let alone
Yeah.
all the integrations, all the stuff you're doing. I want you to double dip if you can into reinforcement learning. I know what it is, but for the listeners who may not know what you're talking about, describe the difference between just accessing an API through Gemini or Claude or OpenAI, whatever, and then versus reinforcement learning. What? Give me a description of why that matters.
Reinforcement learning is the piece that allows the model to learn over time. You are constantly running experiments with your outreach campaigns, testing new messaging, testing new contacts, testing new tools. And we want to take into account those learnings just so we are recommending additional variations that are likely to outperform what you have tested in the past. So you can do that with prompting. Again, there's an infinite number of combinations that you can add in a prompt. And that's why we're seeing a lot more AI models prompt themselves and actually
Yep.
experiment with multiple different types of prompts to find the version that is performing the best.
Right.
And I'll give you a more specific example to how we're using this in practice.
Yeah.
So you can add 10 different types of sequences to Luella. And Luella will automatically test each and every one of those 10 and automatically place more weight towards the version that is performing the best for the contacts that you've uploaded. And over time, once Luella has enough data, Luella will be able to recommend what is the next sequence that you should test against your
Hmm.
current best performer that is likely to outperform it. So those are the different ways that we are using reinforcement learning. And that is a larger value add to achieve more dynamic optimization. Just so it's not a human being constantly tinkering, but an AI model actually making those recommendations for you to make sure you're doing a better job of resonating with your audience over time.
I think, yeah, the difference when you have those little subtle things, it's kind of like when you have a multi-agent framework. And I don't know if you have this in Luella or not, but like when you have this Claude actually just released this about how you think about systems and agents and that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. And it's been interesting to see like from Google what they say versus Claude. And anyways, what's been fascinating is this concept I've been playing with relevance actually with an agent builder of having a team leader that is like governing this fleet of agents doing different tasks
Yeah.
and they all kind of work together. Like that thing is like fascinating. So
Hmm.
do you see a world where Luella becomes almost like I mean, in the lane you're swimming in, becomes like an agent platform to where you have these different agents line up in a row between deliverability and then writing and whatever else they might be doing and all communicating together. Like that is powerful. Is that kind of the what you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
what we like to say is Luella is not an AI model. Luella is not an agent. Luella is the orchestrator to multiple different agents.
Yeah.
And today that's a deliverability agent, a prospecting agent, and soon also a relationship building agent. Soon, Luella can also orchestrate external agents that are outside of our platform. There will be certain actions that you don't need a human being logging into a separate platform to achieve for you. So it is the orchestration of multiple different agents that is going to be that next step. Right now, like a lot of experimentation with individual agents just to make sure they perform, but then combining multiple because that's how you can really streamline an entire function for a sales rep, for example.
Do you think that, because this kind of goes down to some of the basics around what agents are? Again, Google talked about you have to have LLM orchestration and then access to tools, right? And I think what's fascinating is when you have a technology like yours, it becomes the orchestration layer, then you have all the integrations you may have access to, and you run your own algorithms and AI on top of it. It becomes freaking cool. So I'm curious from if someone listening is what's the right term? If they're experiencing like this email frustration and they want to look at testing out a technology like yours, like what would you say suggest to them to use as the assessment level? What should they look for? But obviously, besides deliverability, what are the things they should be looking for? Saying you need to make sure you ask this question or make sure you understand this concept. Like, what do you tell people to make sure they're thinking correctly?
So we actually take it a step further. We will not charge you anything until we run a formal A/B test and show you the performance difference. So if you do not see an improvement in your deliverability via response rates or in the form of our placement tests, like we will
Mm-hmm.
not charge you anything. And we're planning to do the same for our prospecting agent as well. I want you to see incremental revenue before
Yeah.
paying for my software. That's just the mentality that we have. We're very experimentation driven. And especially when folks are comparing us with our competitors, it's like, hey, run an A/B test. I will buy their software, no problem, but start a free trial with us just so you can compare and contrast, and you'll be able to make a decision off of the data instead of a sales pitch.
So what? Going back, I'm going to go have you act like a consultant for a second. So obviously, deliverability and doing a test with yours is. I always tell everybody I talk to with AI tech, I'm like, always do a test. Just do a test and see how it works with. Are you getting the goals you want? All this stuff. But when it comes to your particular swim lane of what you're trying to accomplish, what are the things you like? If you could say the top three things you should look for, what are those three things? No matter what tech they're looking at, what should they look for?
So number one is how they've built their infrastructure. So a lot of
Yeah.
legacy players, and unfortunately newer players as well, they'll use these massive servers with several thousands of unvetted senders in them. And in these servers, you're going to have both good actors that are running cold outbound tastefully and ethically, but also those bad actors that don't give a shit, that are spraying and praying. And when you're using these giant shared servers, even the highest quality senders are being exposed to a bunch of spammers and grifters. Looking for vetted cluster-based infrastructures where rather than a really big server, you have your own mini server. Every single one of your sales reps has their own mini server with a completely separate IP, just so your sender reputation is separate from everyone else that's using that infrastructure. That is a very important piece, especially on the email deliverability side. Education is also very important. We actually take it a step further. We're not only a software company, we're also a team of former go-to-market consultants and agency executives. So we're very scrappy.
Right.
I will
Right.
literally host workshops with these larger enterprises, their sales teams, just to educate them to email deliverability best practices, because you'd be shocked at the knowledge gap. There are still sales reps to this day that think they can get away with sending hundreds of emails out of just one email box, not going through a process of waterfall enrichment, not using intent data to really narrow down the context that they are reaching out to. So finding someone that can be a little bit more hands-on is always helpful. And lastly, there are a lot of new stuff on the agent side of things. Something that we hold true to us and we would highly encourage is, again, that experimentation mindset. Before we roll out AI and automation to everyone that's using our software, we always run tests across a much larger sample. We really want to make sure it's driving incremental revenue but before we make it public to the entire platform. So those are the three pillars that I would find is most important to me when looking for this kind of a software.
I love it, man. I love the advice. I want to make sure before we go, you have your website, which is luella.ai, which I'll have the link inside the show notes. But just in case someone's listening, I want to make sure they know you're there. And is LinkedIn the best way to get in touch if they wanted to? Is that usually the best?
Yeah, my Calendly link is on my LinkedIn. If you go to luella.ai, my Calendly link is on the website as well. Always happy to geek out on email deliverability and B2B growth. So yeah, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. My name's Mustafa Saeed. I'm on Twitter as well.
I love it, my man. It's been a pleasure to know you, and I just want to tell you thanks for coming on, man. I love the gold nuggets you've been dropping, so appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Coach. Thanks for having me on the pod.
Thanks for listening to the GTM AI podcast. Please follow, subscribe, like, comment, and come back for more.